On today's show, we visit a renovated Stevens Field, have a ball with Pilgrim Hall Museum, and talk about upcoming things to do in our area. We're glad you're here. Let's get started. Pilgrim Hall Museum celebrates 200 years bringing history to life this year. And to celebrate, they had a ball. We were on the local scene.
We're having an extraordinary event tonight. It's the 200th anniversary of Pilgrim Hall Museum. 1824, the cornerstone of the building was laid on this day. That's when we're having it, the actual anniversary of the beginning of Pilgrim Hall. And we are doing a rustic English country-style mask and ball. And folks are coming in all kinds of attire, and we're gonna party like it's 1824 in our beautiful hall that is on the verge of a major restoration.
This particular night we had a gala, period piece dressing, as you can see the top hat. It's been pretty amazing.
And we have emptied all of the artwork out of the room except for one enormous painting that was on the wall when the place opened 200 years ago.
The biggest thing is that you see that room, what it looked like 200 years ago with nothing on the walls except for one painting. And what's amazing about it is that us as stewards and trustees, we have an opportunity to fix it and to modernize it in such a way to bring it into the next 200 years so that people will understand not only the story of the Pilgrim side of it, but the Wampanoag and the Pawtucket side of it, and see the whole story as it's supposed to be told.
We are involved in the Light the Way restoration campaign for Pilgrim Hall Museum. The #1 objective of this is to make our historic building watertight. We had rain falling in our main gallery right within feet of major artworks. We knew there was some significant work that had to be done to make the building watertight. And then while we're doing that disruptive work, we have to empty the gallery of its artwork. What other things would benefit the exhibits that we have, the conservation of the historical materials that we steward and show to the public? So we're embarking on some other improvements, including museum lighting, better environmental controls, and a big conservation project for some of these artworks. This artwork, think of it like a book of history in a way, but it's a visual way of communicating information about the past. And Pilgrim Hall Museum has always been an educational organization and very strong in history. We think of it as a historical organization, but it's also, right from the first day it opened, been an art gallery as well. So we look at art as a way to communicate information about the past.
And one of the biggest draws is the paintings that we have in the room. We did the Sargent's painting, I think it was 15 years ago. The other two paintings were due. So we thought, well, while we're doing the restoration on the roof, it was a no-brainer to take those out and have them restored at the same time.
And these huge artworks, some of them have been on the wall literally for 2 centuries. The 2 that we've recently taken off were on the wall for 150 years. And I could show you the dust behind them that proves just how long they were up there. But they really need to be treated. They have all kinds of condition problems because they've been just up on the wall for so long, and we've had to move them out, and these old things don't like to be moved this way. So we need to bring them back, but it's a great opportunity. We're going to turn that hall into a science conservation lab, and people will be able to come and see these works being carefully restored by a team of conservation scientists and specialists. There'll be a little public gallery area, and these folks in their white lab coats will be up on the scaffolding, really going centimeter by centimeter to bring these artworks back to their pristine glory. Hopefully tonight's gala will help us get closer to that goal. If people want to contribute, they can visit pilgrimhall.org, reach out to us at any time. We'll be delighted to have the support, as we have the entire community of Plymouth, through a major grant we received. The community preservation grant for this restoration project was really phenomenal. So we know the community of Plymouth has been most generous, but the artwork is the next thing on the agenda, and that needs help. We take great pride in the history of our region and all of its complexities. We want to represent the many voices of our past here at Pilgrim Hall Museum, and tonight we're celebrating that.
The study of history can be an invigorating, hands-on experience, especially when you're exploring what happened in your own town. The Kingston Public Library Local History Interest Group welcomes all interested to meet on October 24th from 6 to 7 p.m. in the first floor meeting room at the Adams Center. Gain a deeper knowledge and appreciation of history related to Kingston. Take part in dialogue around local history, and this month, in honor of the spooky holiday that is almost upon us, the group will be focusing on the archived artifacts that are a part of the historic Halloween collection. The poems of Emily Dickinson would have been lost to time if not for Margaret Marr, Dickinson's Irish housekeeper. Want to hear more about her story? Visit the Spire Center on October 27th for Emily Dickinson and the Wild Irish Women, Margaret Marr and the Celtification of Emily Dickinson. Presented by America's Hometown Laureates, you'll love this musical performance with music and lyrics by Rosemary Kane, featuring the poetry of the New England mystic herself. Enjoy the tale of how Marr, emboldened by her fierce Irish determination and respect for poetry, was driven and determined to rescue Emily's work from anonymity after the poet's death. This show is made possible through generous sponsorship by the Ancient Order of Hibernians, Walter A. McKinnon Associates, Inc., and the Town of Plymouth Promotions Fund. The show starts at 4 p.m. and is about 90 minutes long. Tickets are free. Visit the Spire Center website. Here's a word or two from the Pembroke Public Library.
Hi there. My name is Peter Santori, and I'm the Reference and Adult Services Librarian at the Pembroke Public Library. Today, I wanted to take a moment to tell you about one of our digital learning resources, A to Z Databases. A to Z is a reference, research, marketing, and job search database, which covers a wide range of information on businesses and households within the U.S. This is a fantastic resource for job seekers, business owners, students, and more. A to Z can be accessed for free by any Pembroke Library patron. Just select it under the Research and Learning section of our website, click on Log In with your library card, and then do just that. Once you have, the whole database will be at the tip of your fingers. The database itself provides an easy way to search through millions of businesses, healthcare professionals, and active job openings, provided through Monster. If it seems overwhelming, there's no need to worry. A to Z's search functionality is as easy as typing the name, city, and/or state of the place you're searching for. The basic search options provided are for finding a business or executive, finding a job or job hunting resources, and finding a person and identifying a phone number. In addition, with advanced search, there are many more ways you can refine your queries, such as specifying keywords, executive titles, or employee size. And if you're struggling with their advanced search refinement system, A to Z provides instructional videos with transcripts for your benefit. Once you've made your search, you can pick and choose which of the results you want to take a look at. Job listings will take you straight to the listing at Monster, while business and person search will provide you with a bunch of other useful information, including an overview, job postings, nearby competitors, and much more. There's plenty to learn and plenty to explore when it comes to A to Z databases, whatever your cause for searching it. Stop by the library or visit our website to learn more, and happy hunting.
Folklore says that every witch needs a cat, but where does one find their furry familiar? Find out on Tuesday, October 29th during a bewitching story time hosted by Miss Kiki at the Pembroke Public Library. Wanted, Witch's Cat, written by Joy H. Davidson and illustrated by Nikki Slay Davidson, is a story of a lonely witch who eventually is united with her paranormal partner in the perfect place. After the story, there will be a craft activity where the kids can craft their own cats out of paper, glitter glue, wiggle eyes, and a little witchy magic. The witch's story time will run about 45 minutes long and is meowvelous for children ages 4 to 8 years old. Register through the library's website or by calling 781-293-6771. If learning about and sampling fresh, delicious local oysters sounds like a type of shelf care you'd like for yourself, join the Duxbury Senior Center for Duxbury's Divine Oyster Affair, a presentation and oyster tasting happening on Tuesday, October 22nd at 2:30 p.m. Spend the afternoon learning about this vibrant Duxbury industry while sampling delicious oysters plucked fresh from the bay. Register through the Senior Center's website now so you won't miss out and be left saying, "Aw, shucks." Research reveals that most of us will outlive our ability to drive safely by 7 to 10 years. MassDOT, Registry of Motor Vehicles, together with the Kingston Council on Aging, is offering Shifting Gears, a workshop designed for older motorists that covers topics including how age-related changes impact driving, the application process for a disability placard and plate, assessment programs, and the warning signs of unsafe driving. The program begins at 10 a.m. on October 22nd. Register by calling or visiting the Senior Center website. You're not having deja vu. It is once again time for the Plymouth Area Chamber of Commerce's annual Halloween on Main Street. From 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. on All Hallows Eve, kiddos with their families are invited to dress up and head to downtown Plymouth for face painting, pumpkin decorating, and trick-or-treating at over 70 downtown merchants. Don't leave out your furry friends. There will be virtual cool costume contests for both children and costumed canines. It is all free and a great way to kick off your Halloween fun. The Pembroke Council on Aging evening concerts continue on Monday, October 28th, when beloved local guitarist and skilled vocalist Paul Coronella from the band Play It Again will be playing light sounds from the 1970s. You'll be transported to a place only music can take you, and perhaps find inspiration to sing along to the familiar tunes. The concert starts at 5:30 and will be about an hour long. Halloween is lurking just around the calendar's corner, bringing with it Gothic Victorian tales featuring women from history and literature at the Duxbury Council on Aging. On Thursday, October 24th at 2 p.m., join Rita Parisi of Waterfall Productions as she reads classic tales penned by author Sarah Orne Jewett, each story woven with just enough shadow and creep to evoke the spooky season. Hear about the impact of a family curse, an odd stranger's small-town visit, and an encounter with a woman of a certain age who may have the gift of immortality. Register for this free event through the Senior Center's website. Are you distressed by a family dinner table as politically divided as our country? The Plymouth Center for Active Living is here to help and is offering the Family and Politics Workshop on Tuesday, October 22nd at 5:30 p.m. Preserve your loving relationships and stay true to your values and political views with this presentation by the Braver Angels organization, who will provide participants with strategies for interactions with family members whose views clash with yours in ways that are constructive and not destructive, all while sharing fun stories and provoking some laughs. The goal is to leave this gathering with a toolbox of skills that may not erase opposing opinions, but will help preserve those precious family bonds. Registration is appreciated, but not required. Walk-ins are welcome, and this workshop is free. New York Times best-selling author Catherine Newman will be at the Adams Center in Kingston on Tuesday, October 29th, for a discussion of Sandwich, her latest, which Anne Patchett glowingly referred to as being joy in book form. Sandwich is a touching and often hilarious novel about a family's annual Cape Cod summer vacation derailed by plumbing disasters, a mess of menopausal rage, and family secrets emerging from the cracks of the past. This hour-long event starts at 6 p.m., after which the book will be available for purchase. Reserve your spot through the Kingston Public Library website. OCES presents Bringing Health to You, an event for seniors at the Duxbury Senior Center, where 5 pathways that support an overall healthier, safer you will be presented. Learn more about protective services and its resources for elders and their families. Get an explanation of options counseling, honoring choices through creating a health care plan, dispelling the common myths about nutrition, and crafting for stress relief, when you'll craft something you can take home with you. And there is such a thing as a free lunch, which will be served at this event taking place on October 25th from 9:45 to 12:30 p.m. Space is limited, so be sure to register through duxburyseniorcenter.org or by calling 781-934-5774, extension 5703. The Plymouth COPE Center is a community harm reduction drop-in center that offers resources, education, and outreach in a compassionate environment for those living with substance abuse disorder or in recovery, and supports the whole community. On Wednesday, October 23rd, the center invites you to the Plymouth Public Library to watch the premiere of Dennis Quaid's national segment on Viewpoint, highlighting the life-saving impact harm reduction initiatives like COPE centers have on saving lives. During this powerful and inspiring evening, COPE Center staff and community partners will be on site to share harm reduction supplies and other resources, and speakers from the town of Plymouth and other local nonprofits will discuss PCOPE's journey to opening and the benefits already seen in our community. Doors open at 5 p.m. and the program runs from 6 until 8:30. Admission is first come, first serve, and seating is limited. Please register through the BAMC website. Tiff is next with some news you can use.
I am. Stevens Field in Plymouth has gotten an update. We went on the local scene to the dedication of the newly restored 7-acre recreation area.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. We're about to get started. My name is Derek Brindisi. I am the town manager for the town of Plymouth, and I will be your MC this evening, or this afternoon. So a couple of things I would like to go over. Do want to recognize a few people that are in the audience here today. I do have to say there was a bet at Town Hall. The over-under was for 50 people. I lost that bet. I chose the under, so thank you all for coming out. Casey Kennedy, our communications coordinator, she bet more than 50. Thank you, Casey, for pulling this together today. Before we begin, I want to recognize State Representative Catherine Lanatra, who's here with us this afternoon. Thank you for being here. The chairman to the select board, Mr. Dick Quinto. Our vice chairman, Mr. Kevin Canty. Select board member, Charlie Bletzer. And school committee member, Michelle Badger, is in the audience somewhere. Thank you for being here today. And there's a number of other people I want to recognize, because those of you that understand the history of what we're here to celebrate today know that this celebration spans, I want to say, at least 20 years. The stories I have heard is these conversations about rebuilding this park go back to the early 2000s. So there are a number of people here who had a part of this conversation over a period of that time. Former fire chief and now chairman of the CPC committee, Chief Ed Bradley, is in the audience today. Thank you, Chief, for attending. Former fire chief Fagazi is also in attendance. And since I'm on a roll with chiefs, our current chief Foley is here. This is almost like a ribbon cutting for a fire station with so many chiefs here today. I also want to recognize Ted Bubbins, the former Parks and Recreation Director. Thank you for being here, Ted. And I would like to also recognize Mr. Bill Cohen here, who is the former chair of CPC. Thank you for your commitment, for everything that you've done for CPC over the years, and for bringing this project forward as well. Last, I want to recognize longtime selectman sitting in the front row here, Mr. Ken Tavares, who is also with us here today. And then, only because he's hiding, Mr. David Gould, who's the director of the Department of Energy and Environment, who just came back from jury duty for the past week. A huge round of applause for David. I don't know if you realize this, but back in 2022, I think it was, David, or that time period, I went to David and I asked him if he would be willing to assist us, the DPW, our DPW to have left. I asked him if he'd be able to take on some projects, and he willingly stepped up and said that he would take on the project management of this project. But he did say, he had one note, he said, once I take it on, I'm not giving it back. So everything that happened in this project, as far as what it looks like today is all much credit to David Gould here in the back. Thank you, David. And then last, I want to recognize Commissioner Michelle Brady, the Commissioner of Health and Human Services. Thank you, Michelle, for being here today. So like I mentioned earlier, today's event spans 20 years. Much deliberation, both at the community preservation level, with the select board over the course of that time, the Stevens Field Planning Committee. Many of you are on that committee. You can remember those days and having those discussions on what this park will ultimately look like. And then at the end of the day, everything goes to town meeting. So for all you town meeting members that are here today, thank you so much for appropriating those dollars to make today's project a reality. So thank you all. And just so we're clear, this was a $5.8 million project. $5.8 million was set aside, $200,000 to design it, 4.7 came from CPC, and we had to use an additional $900,000 for ARPA to bring this project home. But we're not here just to celebrate the project itself. We're also here to honor two individuals who committed so much to this community, Mr. Doug Gray and then Mr. Chet Downey. We will recognize those two individuals this afternoon as well. So I'm just the MC, so I'm going to turn the next portion of this presentation over to Selectman John Mahoney. Mr. Mahoney, as you know, has been a longtime selectman here in this community and also serves on the Community Preservation Committee.
Thank you, Derek. And thanks to everyone for coming out today. We got lucky, the weather is cooperating. Before I make a few comments about why we're here today, I just want to say that I'm of the age where I have no recollection of the Nixon or Ford administration. So for me, Jimmy Carter was my first president. And he turns 100 today. And he's the kind of individual that should set the example of how we should conduct ourselves as elected officials. So I just want to say happy birthday to Jimmy Carter. So 10 years ago, I drove up to my mother's house and I walked in the house and she handed me a photo. And in the photo, it identified it as 1948 and she was sitting on the hood of a pickup truck with an ice cream cone in her hand. And she looked at me and said, "Where am I?" And I could tell from the former curb cut that used to be over there near the duck pond that she was at Stevens Field. And I knew that immediately. So growing up in another community, I came here all the time as a child because my pediatrician was at the top of the hill, Dr. Richard Elliott, in that medical building right up there. So I have fond memories going back well over 50 years of on this property, especially that playground that used to be in the back right corner. All my siblings played there. Before or after we went to the doctors, if the weather cooperated, we knew we were going to Stevens Field. And then years after that, I came full circle, where I now live up at the top of the hill on Whiting Street. And Ed Bradley, I have no idea why you left this neighborhood. So having said that, I got involved in the community and I started off by getting elected to town meeting. So 17 years ago, this month, fall town meeting of October of '07, the select board brought an article forward to double the acreage of the DPW annex down at the end of Camelot. And by doing that, we could divest ourselves of 3 pieces of property. And one of them was pretty much almost 3 acres right here. And town meeting stood up and said, "We don't care what you do with the other 2, but we want those 3 acres to be incorporated into a new modernized Stevens Field." And that happened. And that happened because of the leadership of my former, and at the time, future colleagues on the select board, and that's Mr. Richard Quintal, Kenneth Tavares, David Malaguti, and Mr. Butch Machado. Without them, this wouldn't have happened. My first term working with Mr. Quintal, Nelson Park was completed. On the other side, north of the downtown waterfront area. And what an extraordinary investment that was. And people have been going there for the last 14 years enjoying that park. This one came in a little bit longer. Took us a little bit more than what we thought it was going to be, but this is another jewel in the downtown waterfront area. This is an extraordinary investment, especially in a community like Plymouth, where you're an oceanfront community. We want to facilitate and allow people to come here and passively recreate and enjoy the water. So this is an extraordinary day for me. It's an honor for me to be here on behalf of the Plymouth Select Board. And the last thing I'll say is it couldn't have gotten done without the citizens of this community supporting the Community Preservation Act, passing that and continuing to use that to invest in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I also want to recognize Police Chief Flynn, who's now in the back of the audience. Thank you, Chief, for coming out today. So our next speaker is our most junior Parks and Forestry Superintendent. As I mentioned earlier, we have two in our presence now, former Parks and Forestry Superintendents, both Doug and Teddy. But I'm going to turn the mic over to our newest Superintendent, Mr. Nick Fael.
Thank you all. Nick Faella, Parks and Forestry Superintendent. Doug, Teddy, half as good as you guys for my career here, so thank you guys and congratulations, Doug. Congratulations, Mr. Downey, on both of your areas today. Thank you. I also wanted to say thank you to David Gould, who's hiding back there. I worked under David in this project. He taught me a lot. Without him, this wouldn't have gotten done. I wouldn't have learned everything that I learned, so thank you to David as well. Thank you. We finally did it. So lastly, I wanted to thank everybody that's been involved in the past 2 decades in making this happen, whether it was a little design plan or blowing the sidewalks off at the end of the day. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears came from a lot of hands and a lot of people. Too many to list. I would definitely miss somebody. So I just want to say thank you to everybody. And I hope you all enjoy the park and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. So our next speaker is Mr. Tim Downey. As you all know, Tim is the son of Chet Downey, who, if you look to your rear here, right on Sandwich Street, is now forever will be named the Chet Downey Scenic Overlook due to Mr. Downey's years of dedication to this community, 40 years for the Girls and Boys Club, his time as a truant officer, his time managing the concessions over here at Stevens Field. So this is a great tribute to your dad and everything that he's done.
Hello. First off, no photos unless I have my shades on. I would say for those that don't know me, I am Tim Downey, but that was just said. For everyone here that does know me, hi, how are you? First, I would like everyone here to understand that this monument and plaque were not directly from the town. It was a result of a man by the name of Robert Romanoff. Mr. Romanoff owned the land that this memorial sits on now. While selling the land of the town, he took tens of thousands of dollars less for naming rights. And then when questioned what name he wanted to put it in, he said Chet Downey. That touched me more than any other award or recognition that my dad has got over the years, because Stevens Field, this area, was his favorite place in town. Now, I don't know Mr. Romanoff, but I obviously would like to know at some point exactly what Chet did that made him lose $50,000, $60,000 to put it in his name. and maybe someday I will. But I cannot thank that man enough for making me cry, actually. I've had many people come up to me over the years asking if I was Chet's kid. And when I said yes, they said, blah, 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 meaning a story about what Chet did for them. I've had guys tell me that they owe their businesses to Chet. I have other people that say they own their entire contract and businesses to Chet, all because Chet got to them early and was able to help put them on the right path. Something I don't think we see as much today as we used to. Excuse me. See, I feel the world needs more of these people, like my dad, yet less seem to show up nowadays. But you don't need to just earn the respect of the kid. You need to earn the respect of the parents as well. And Chet did that in spades. It took many years for me to slowly realize the magnitude of what Chet did. He was a very, very, very selfless man. He came from nothing. He was a Depression-era kid. And he was never really even sure if he was going to eat dinner that night. It was something he never forgot. He once said to me when I was younger, though I care about all the kids in Plymouth, in this town, I care more about the poor that can't afford a basketball. I'm aware I'll never have the understanding of what Chet did for so many, considering at the Boys Club he was the executive director from 1946 to 1992. 40 or 50 years, so generations of people have gone through the Plymouth Boys Club and know my dad, probably better than I do. This was, without a doubt, Chet's favorite place. You could come down here any season and Chet would be sitting right behind where that black truck is, staring at the water, drinking a coffee, contemplating who knows what. He ran a lot of youth programs in town. He ran the Boys Club. He was the truant officer. But more importantly, he ran the youth programs down here in the 60s and then took over the concession stand in the 70s up through the late 80s. In that time, he met more people, and somewhere in that time, he met Mr. Romanoff. I don't really know what to say outside of that, except I want to thank Mr. Romanoff again for putting this in my dad's name. And someday I'd love to hear the story. He seems that Chet touched a lot of people's lives over the years, and I never, ever once heard a bad word. Thank you all for listening, and if you have anything you want to tell me, maybe a story about Chet, I'll be here for a little while. And I also want to thank Plymouth for allowing this all to happen. My dad wanted this in 1975. It's now 2004. It's about right for the town. It was a joke. So thank you, Plymouth. Thank you for everything. And thank you more so to Mr. Romanoff. I'll always be proud of that rock on the hill. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. So our last speaker this afternoon is Mr. Douglas Gray. As you know, you look to my left here, the playground is in honor of you, Mr. Gray. Everything that you have done for 26 years for this community as the superintendent of parks and forestry, we appreciate you. We appreciate your years of service, and we ask you to come forward and say a few words.
Wow. Is this on? It's on. You can hear me? Oh, that's too bad. This is hard to comprehend for me. First off, I don't recognize the place.
Hold the microphone up there.
Oh, okay. I don't recognize the place. Where are our old barns that were filled with pigeons and rats and things like that we used to call home here for the park department? I'm glad to see they're gone. This is a much better use. I can't say enough about the crews that work for the Parks Department and the Tree Department, once that was added to us as well. Fantastic group. We didn't need anything fancy. We just needed machinery that worked so that we could get things done. I look out here now, I just don't even recognize from here up. I remember that, the ocean, but I think I know a lot of this work is a result of the committee that was formed a few years ago to put together plans and pressure to get something done down here. I would attend the meetings. I wasn't on the committee. I didn't want to be. I was there to offer any information that they didn't have about the area. And I was glad to do so because it is not the easiest area to work with, being fronting on the bay. But they did an exquisite job. I have to thank everybody involved in that. I just wonder where our old barns are now. And, if the pigeons found another home. But, no, it's a marvelous thing. It's something we had in mind way back, but there wasn't enough push and certainly not enough money. And I doubt that we could have done it better than what you have here today. I appreciate the name. I did have to correct the spelling, or else my mother would come back and haunt me. So, Dave, thank you for adding the S. Truly an asset to the town, always was, but now it really is. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. So we're going to move to the ribbon cutting ceremony in just 1 minute, but 2 announcements before we do that. One, after we cut the ribbon, our chairman, Mr. Quintal, has donated pizzas. They're all in the concessions if anybody wants to help themselves, so please do. And then our recreation director in the back, Ann Slusser, is organizing games over here in the field for not just children, but if any children would like to play, they're certainly more than welcome. So we're going to move to the ribbon cutting ceremony right now.
There are lessons to be derived from history that can serve to make our present-day communities more tolerant, inclusive, and resilient. On Monday, October 21st, some of these lessons will be explored when the Town of Plymouth No Place for Hate Committee hosts Professor Peter Gottschalk for Unacceptable, Themes of Religious Intolerance in American History. Starting with the Irish Catholic immigrants in the 19th century, this talk will cover historical events of hatred and bigotry all the way up to enduring threats of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia we face today. And most importantly, the discussion will examine how communities in the past met these challenges and came together to promote inclusion and stand as one against hate. Peter Goshak is a professor of religion at Wesleyan University and author of American Heretics, Catholics, Jews, Muslims, and the History of Religious Intolerance. He has presented on these topics worldwide at colleges and universities and has appeared on CNN, Voice of America, and National Public Radio. The event will take place in the Phalo Room at Plymouth Public Library from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Refreshments will be served after the talk. All are welcome.
And that, my friends, wraps this episode of What's Good and Good to Know in our area. Thank you for watching.
And we want to thank our patrons, Tiny & Sons, Quintal Brothers, and Squinty's Pizza for supporting our mission of community in action through media.
We'll see you on the local scene.
For more of what's good and good to know on the South Shore of Massachusetts, hit the subscribe button. And thank you for watching.